Hello, ladies. How are we on this Friday?
Fantastic.
I love it. Veronica, how are you?
Very excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you are here. Every time I do this, I'm like, happy Friday, although what is time anymore? Like every day could be a weekend or every day it could be a Monday. Like, who can tell? But I am glad to have both of you here today, and let's give folks just a minute or two to start filtering in. I see some familiar names. Hi, ladies. So before we kick it off, I'll kind of just give the little spiel about why we do these things on Fridays. So my name is Holly Amaya, and together with my business partner, Anne Marie Hoftailing, I run a company called Story Imprinting. And Story Imprinting teaches companies and individuals, people of all kinds, how to integrate storytelling into their daily life, daily routine in a way that's influential, that moves people and influences behavior. My background is I am a journalist and a lifelong storyteller. I'm very nosy. That's what all of my Southern relatives would say about me. Like, you're perfect for this because you just love to ask people nosy questions. And in my own career, I have been through several transitions, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Started out as a journalist, went to law school for reasons much too lengthy to get into here, but reasons that were not very well thought out. Realized very quickly that I didn't like practicing law, and then made a transition back into public relations and media and storytelling, which is what I really love to do. And one of the things that really helped me during those times of transition was having sort of a network of people to help me, coach me through. And that for me took the form of individual coaching as well as peer advisory coaching. And so I kind of want to touch on all of that today, because I know each of these fabulous women who are here have also had, journeys like that at various points in their career. We are doing these sessions every Friday as sort of like a free content service to keep people connected during what we thought was going to be a very short, abbreviated, finite amount of time as we all are at home. We're obviously quickly realizing that is we're in this for the long haul. And so we're in this with you. We are here on Fridays, typically noon or 1 o'clock. We post it on LinkedIn so you can figure out registration details going forward. But we just like to talk about issues of professional development that relate to storytelling and what we do. So with that said, it is my tremendous privilege to introduce all of you to our two fabulous panelists. So to my left, although I don't know what it looks like for you guys, Veronica Yepez Reyna is the founder of Perpetuum, a San Diego-based family office which focuses on family wealth education, communication, and planning for billionaires. You heard that right, billionaires. And normally, by the way, I've known both of these women for years. I normally would not read their introductions, but it is very important that you guys get every detail about what makes them so fabulous. She has extensive experience working with international families across borders. She's based here in San Diego, works with a lot of ultra high net worth families in Mexico and elsewhere. And she really works to help them identify, understand, and align the ecosystem of their wealth, which is such a great phrase, Veronica, to achieve their true potential. She does a lot with next generation wealth, which I want to talk a little bit about as we talk about your story. Veronica, I think that's really interesting. She's a JD and an MBA, so she's definitely a lot smarter than me, and her professional experience includes working for prestigious law firms and financial institutions around the world. So welcome, Veronica. And by the way, she's a mommy of 2 little ones, and she kicks ass at everything that she does. And I'm always in complete awe of how she manages to find 36 hours in a 24-hour day. So cheers and snaps for you, Veronica, and welcome.
I have a secret that I'm going to tell later.
Oh, excellent. I can't wait to hear it. And Natasha Watley, who's underneath me on the little panels here on the Zoom screen, is a 2-time Olympic medalist. I mean, can you give it up for Natasha? I actually know an Olympian. That is the coolest thing ever. She is a 3-time world champion, and she's also in the UCLA Hall of Fame. Go Bruins. She is the driving force behind the Natasha Watley Foundation, which is a community service nonprofit that's dedicated to introducing softball to the girls of the nation's inner cities. And I mean, we need that now more than ever. So thank you, Ms. Watley, for all the work you do on that front. And she views this as more than just teaching young girls how to play the sport of softball. She also provides a great alternative to the daily struggles that a lot of these kids face in low-income households. She's in her 12th season as a coach for Team Toyota in Japan and is an MLB softball ambassador, which I am glad that the MLB has a softball ambassador, and I would like to learn more about that and tell our listeners more about that. She's also a public speaker and a trainer on team dynamics, and she gave a TED Talk in December, which was so amazing. Did you know this, Veronica?
No, I did not. How did I miss that?
Guess who coached her? And Marie Hofftaling.
Yeah.
We're not here, but we have to give her props. And I was there. I watched Natasha talk about the topic of transitions, and it was fabulous. She had everybody in the auditorium back when we could all gather in auditoriums. They were completely transfixed. So you two obviously have very different backgrounds and have done just incredible things throughout your careers. And I mean, you both look like you're like 22, so it's amazing that you've been able to cram all of this stuff into such a short amount of time. But I want to talk to you a little bit. I want to give the floor to each of you to talk a little bit about your personal stories, like kind of how you got to where you are. And then from there, I want to kind of delve into how coaching has helped you through these periods of transition. So Natasha, do you want to start? Kind of tell us where your love for this crazy game of softball started and how you got from a kid hitting a ball to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I mean, the short story is I fell in love instantaneously. I started playing when I was 5. I grew up in Irvine, Southern California, and I'm only child. And so for me, I wanted to be around other young girls, and softball was my outlet. And like, honestly, I fell in love with so many different things about the game, and it didn't discriminate. Like, you could be tall, you could be short, you could be big hips, small hips, it didn't really matter. And so for me, like, I wanted to learn everything, and didn't really realize like where it could take me. And I think that's when you find your passion. I think that's when you know you found it, because you're just in it for being momentarily in that moment. And I'm very thankful for my father. My father is the one that kind of set out and was like, okay, well, if you're into this, like, let's start thinking about the college scholarship, like all of the different avenues. Went on to play at UCLA. It was in my backyard. It was the school that I was able to go and see what softball could be at this big level. Saw the Olympic team play in 1996, and that was when it was like, I can play this in the Olympics? Like, oh my gosh, no way. And so just have gone on and just like literally like been in the moment. What's that next step? It's college. Been in the moment. What's that next step? Olympics. And that's literally just how my career has played out. And I think I've just been able to experience so much. Travel the world, receive a scholarship, went on to play professionally in Japan, and just realizing like how much this game has given me, and wanting to give that back. And after the 2008 Olympics, I went on a speaking tour in South LA, and I formed my nonprofit because there was this one young lady, and we went to all the inner city schools in South LA. I'm like, so like on cloud 9, holding my medals, and just like, softball is so cool. It's so amazing. One young girl raises her hand, African-American girl, is like, sounds really good, Miss Watley. Like, your story sounds cool, but what is softball? And from that moment on, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how do you not know what softball is? Like, I wanted it like was my life mission that every young girl at least knows what this game is or has some exposure to it. Maybe they fall in love with it, maybe they don't. And that was how I started my nonprofit. And it's just kind of been my passion to be able to turn all of my expertise in the game and my love for it and just kind of give it back to the community.
And what about the partnership with Major League Baseball? Like, how did that kind of come about? When was that?
Yeah, so that came in, this would be my second year as their youth ambassador. And I think on their end, them just seeing the value of a young girl and that they have a place, and that baseball and softball are very mirrored sports. So that came about 2 years ago, and they've just put a big emphasis on their youth programming for girls and for softball. And so my responsibilities with them is just promoting the game, being an ambassador to their audience. They have a lot of urban youth academies, and I'm sorry if you can hear that.
Okay.
They have
Well,
a
we
lot.
all live in Southern California. No plane noise or whatever that was is like a fact of life. It's fine.
To talk over it and hurry that,
Yeah.
making them hurry up.
That's great.
But MLB, they have urban youth academies throughout the country. So in all their big markets in their inner cities, they have an academy where baseball athletes, softball athletes will go and get training. And so most of those athletes are underserved demographics. So they do a lot of programming for them. And so they have brought me on to help just promote the game, teach the game, be a mentor to these athletes at all of these different urban youth academies throughout the country.
Awesome. Thank you for that overview. I have lots of questions, but I want to hear from Vero. Tell us a little bit about, how did you get to this point of working with billionaires, girls? Like, side note, Veronica and I are the members of the same peer advisory executive women's group. Well, Natasha too. Yeah, we're all in the same one. And I remember, I don't know if Amanda Allen is watching this. I know that she had signed up, but she's also in that group, and she knows. She asked Veronica 5 years ago, right? Like when we all sat in a room for the first time, like, so how can we help you? Like, what are your ideal clients? And at the time, their minimum was $100 million. They weren't pretty nice. So you leveled up to that, right? But we were all like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't know. Do I know anybody? No, I don't. Sorry. Like, how else can we support you? So now you're working with millionaires, girl. So tell us about kind of how you got from your background as a lawyer and working in financial services industry to establishing this very sort of niche company that caters to a very specific niche group.
Yeah, thank you. And it was great to hear Natasha's story first, because to me, it was the opposite. I think it was not that clear at the beginning how that would look like. So I describe my process more like a piece of marble that, you have the primary rock there and you want to build the sculpture, but you don't really know how that is going to end up looking. I know inside there, like my heart was pumping and was singing when I was thinking about helping complexities, working with the transformation of other people, and dealing with international things, because that complexity again and cross-culture, that was those were the elements I knew, but it was a lot of work of identifying what does that look like. And so it was more about tipping off and just walking and just, as Natasha was saying, is being at the moment and then figuring out this is not this, yes, this, no, that. And through that process, it was a lot of, and doing that while, you just have to feed your people and, bring money to the table. So being conscious about, what I need to do right now and how do I walk through that path of finding that purpose and that beating heart. And where I am right now is, so I went from, a legal background in the financial services towards transitioning, and the constant, I had to hear what is constant theme that is making my heart beat. And that again, I go to complexity and transformation, helping people walk through complexity and transform themselves. And so I had to work a lot through hard questions and helping with coaches. And I know that's your second question and where we will be heading to in the conversation, but who can help me, sort of hold the mirror and ask me the questions, the hard questions, because it's easy to say, hey, I'm comfortable right now. It's a good paycheck. I don't hate what I do, but it's okay. Someone say, hey, no, that's you are not truly happy. And you know who that was, right? Anne-Marie Hoptailing.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Tell us
after
about
working
that.
with different, of course. So after working, with different sales coaches and sales processes, I mean, it was through that hard work and then the peer work with executive group, like the best that I could get is just holding a space to ask the questions and just saying, keep working. And I think it's a constant work. I mean, I have this business now for 4 years and it's still a lot of shuffling and just keep working and chopping off what's not working. And perhaps what I thought it was going to look like a little pony, now it's more like an elephant, and I love it.
Right.
And so that has been the kind of work and the purpose I find in working with billionaires, besides it sounds really sexy and attractive, it's more that I know that for for people I'm originally from Mexico, and I work with a lot with Latin American clients or international clients. In certain economies, in most economies, it's those people who can really make an impactful decision. And that's where I started working with human rights, with children in the street in Mexico. And I knew that was not my sweet spot. I could make the biggest impact because I was able to talk and walk to the high net worth individuals and the business people to make the decisions that would then help transform the whole chain and the whole employees. So to me, the work with billionaires is more about helping them get responsibility on, you have 25,000 employees behind this decision. So you should better be responsible and understand the kind of decision that you're making and not make it about, I hate my sister, and as a shareholder, I'm going to block her in this important decision.
Right.
So that's where I am right now.
Okay. I want to go back to some stuff that you mentioned. So I remember before you started this company, you were at another, like a large sort of multinational firm, right? And
yes.
And they were going to close your office. Is that right?
Yes.
and I remember, I think I had just gotten to know you. You worked with Anne-Marie to kind of develop a strategy to keep that office open, and and you developed your own sort of sales strategy. And ultimately, you were the company's top salesperson globally after execution of that strategy, right? So if you're comfortable, I would love to hear about what that was like, because I personally, I don't know if anybody watching, Natasha, if when you get news like that, it's like very deflating, and it's easy to say like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just gonna, I guess, find another job, or, oh my God, what's gonna happen next, right? And so, walk us through sort of how you felt in that moment, and then how you came to the point of working with a coach, working with Anne-Marie to kind of develop this strategy, and what that experience was like, because all of us on this call have been coached by Anne-Marie at some point in our lives. Like, I feel like because I'm a partner now, I get coached by her every day, and it's awesome. But she does not hold back. Like, she is like, this is what you're going to do. Why are you not writing this down? Like, you must do this, right? Like, where's your pen? So tell us about that.
Of course, yeah. Yes.
Oh, I think we lost you. Wait, is she frozen for you, Natasha?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right when the getting was good, man.
The good stuff.
Okay. Well, let's wait for her let's let her come back, and Natasha will just shift to you. Veronica, if you can hear us, maybe try logging out, logging back in, and we'll hold that thought. Get your answer ready. Yeah. So, Natasha, you've had coaching your entire career, like from the time you wait.
So my whole life project was about moving into the.
Are you there? There you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was about to give up.
It's okay. We were transitioning, but we will transition back. Tasha,
yeah.
hold that thought. Okay, Veronica, start your answer over, please. So
very quickly, so the whole scenario where we are there is just my boss is telling me that he's quitting, that it's my time to try to ask for a promotion, and then he says, oh, by the way, but they may close the office. So it was a whole strategy, short term. The owner of the company was going to be here, but he normally lives around the world. The life project could continue, and so that's when I met Anne-Marie, and we work. She would work with me through Scotch, we were drinking Scotch late night, Saturdays, and we were just doing the hard work of saying, this is where I am right now. This is not the company where I want to work long term, but just be there. Again, to Natasha's point, is here, make the most out of this. So we built up a whole strategy that was very different. It felt like you have to come up with this strategy, and it was like also big and ambiguous, and it felt so heavy. And so the great thing about her is that she would just tell me like the 3 things that I need you to do right now. Yeah. And every meeting would start like going, hey, wait, can I record this? Because I really need to hear this like 5 times. I was recording her constantly, but the great work with her was just like bite-sized pieces. I remember she said, let's take a bite of the elephant once. And that made it very easy to do, but at the same time, focusing on the impactful things. And it was not like this coach large workbooks where write down the 10 top blah, blah, blah. No. It was like right here, right now. So I pitched the owner, and he's like, okay, no, we got it. But it was like the exact wording that I needed to use. And he agrees to keep the office open, but then I'm waiting, like he leaves and I take the responsibility. And then I'm like, well, so where's the new agreement and where's the new salary and what's that look like? And he's like, no. In our company, the way it works is like you take the position and then a year later you get like the income, right? And at that point I was like, okay, if that's the way it works, okay. I was willing to go.
Oh, was Anne-Marie
right?
like, oh no.
No, she was like, oh, great. So you're willing to work more for the same. That's what you want to do. I was like, no. I said, well, that's exactly what you're doing. So of course she wouldn't let that. So there we go with the strategy of the negotiation, right? And I was really panicking because again, my whole life project depended on it. So that coaching is what making the hard questions, the hard conversations. And then I was sweating, just trying to send this email to the owner. And
I'm sweating, like thinking about it.
12 hours later, his response is like, okay. And I'm like, okay, so I got promoted. But it was the whole learning process about conquering the fears. And to me, the whole process with Anne-Marie is the transformation. And with the coaching, I mean, it's you transform, you face your fears, you get accountability. You need someone that is going to make you do the small, very uncomfortable things. And I call her, she's my godmother of the uncomfortable moments. Because that's where, growth happens. And then, So fast forward the first year, we implement this whole strategy. I was the youngest managing director worldwide for this company. And all of a sudden, we're 3 women versus like 70 managing directors, male. And then I became
surprise.
top number 1 salesperson worldwide and the youngest one. And there I am presenting in Dubai, the whole strategy that we have crafted with Anne-Marie. So I could not have done it without a coach and much less without Anne-Marie specifically. And then the whole cohort within this executive peer group that we are, it's just that space to allow growth and hard conversations to happen.
1000%. And I have this vision in my head of you presenting in Dubai. It sounds so incredible. I think, for a lot of people, like coaching kind of went through this phase where it was like very woo-woo, like people, it was like the whole life coaching movement happened about like 10 years ago, maybe more than that. And like, I think, but every successful female executive I know has a coach or is part of a group like ours. And, I remember like when I remember meeting Anne-Marie at 10 years ago she was speaking at this equal pay thing here in San Diego for lawyers. And I'm, a lawyer recovering. So I was practicing that and I went, and I remember, she stood up and she gave this incredible talk about equal pay. And then she gave us like some actionable things to do, which, I mean, we've all been to keynotes where you like listen to somebody talk about a problem and how terrible it is. And we all clutch our pearls and then like, that's it. There's no takeaway, but she actually gave us things to do. And I remember it was about making an ask, right? Like she said this then and she says this now. One of the most radical things an American woman can do is to put herself first, right? And asking for what you need as part of that. And I remember like going up to her afterward and I was totally a fangirl, and I was like, I want to transition. Like I'm practicing law, but I totally hate it, but I'm afraid to say that too loud because I'm like surrounded by lawyers right now. But, and she just said, here's my website and here's what I do. And, never did she try and like sell me on her. She just was basically like, this is what I do. And if I, let's set up a 15-minute call. And if I'm a fit, great. And I was terrified of her, which I think was good. But I wanted to be her best friend, and I was terrified of her. And at the time, she was just starting our executive group, the executive group of which we're all part, and that really appealed to me. I was really intrigued by it. I have to say that there are not a lot of groups like this for executive women, where you can really go and process, professional and personal issues. And I was really interested in that. And so for me, like the value of the individual coaching that I've received from her, and then also just being part of this group, has helped me make probably every big decision I've made over the last 7 years in my career. And I see you nodding, Natasha. I'm wondering how that speaks to you, like how as you've sort of transitioned out of like being this Olympic athlete, with your 2 gold medals, carried them around, which is awesome. But how has that coaching sort of helped you transition into running your own business?
It's helped tremendously. I mean, it's like I'm treading waters that I've never treaded before. And so I didn't even know that there was coaching that existed in this realm. So
Right.
Amanda Allen, who I went to college with, is who put me on the radar of Anne Marie. And when she told me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love that, because I've been coached my whole entire life. And I know that I'm a person who functions well with someone who can steer me in the right direction, hold my hand a little bit, but give me a little bit of tough love. And Anne Marie is all of those things. I think the tough love is probably the leading thing. But I think when going in waters that you've never been before, having someone be kind of your guider and be a mentor through that, like there's no greater feeling than that. And just being able to fill me with the questions that I need to ask in negotiation. Also, you know, opening my eyes to things that I never thought were possible. I mean, let's talk about the TED Talk.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought that could be a business development avenue for myself. Like who, like how, what, like it doesn't even make sense. And so I think just being able, I think it's just so valuable, because you don't even know what the possibilities are unless someone can actually show you what the possibilities could be. And you don't know what you don't know. And so I think having a coach and having someone like Anne Marie specifically has just been tremendous in this transition of being Olympian turned businesswoman.
Right.
So it's been amazing.
And developing your story, right? I mean, that's what a lot of this like centers on. I mean, you guys both know I come at the storytelling stuff from more of a journalistic background, and then I've helped, you know, companies sort of craft their narrative for a very long time in PR. But so much of like what coaching is about is like kind of helping our clients figure out, you know, this is my personal story. This is who I am. And it's different, by the way, than like personal branding. Like that's a term that people throw around really kind of loosely, and it's fine. It has its value. But, you know, really figuring out like, this is who I am and what I do. This is where I need to go, and kind of helping connect the dots between those two. Because I'll be honest, like I, for a very long time, was just very happy doing what I was doing, or so I thought, you know, in an agency. It was fine. It was great. They were great. It was all great, right? But it wasn't my biggest, best, wildest dream of what I wanted to be doing and how I wanted to have control of my time. And I have found that coaching has been very, very helpful to kind of ferret out all of the reasons that like why fine is maybe not good enough, you know, and how do you actually like forge the path forward. I'm curious, like a side note, for those of you who are here watching live, please feel free to like drop questions or things that resonate with you into the chat box. Like we're just three gals having a great convo, but I want you all who are here to be able to ask questions of these ladies about their personal stories, about their journeys, about what advice they might have for you. Oh, there you are, Veronica, you're back. So please make use of that. So let's talk a little bit more about coaching in terms of transition, right? Like you both have been through some very specific transitions in your careers. And I'm wondering if there's ever, you know, a time where you wished that you had had coaching, or you had, you know, you took, Veronica's like, I do, what's that eye roll? Why don't you share, Veronica? I'm going to call on you first.
I'm just thinking about all those moments where I was, you know, in a law firm or in the financial services, and there were really no mentors or no sponsors, no female mentors or sponsors. And then I just wish someone would have me. And I was very young, and I started at 20. So I just wish someone could have helped me just decide better, think through better. And I would have saved me a lot of mistakes, or I could just have done better. And I didn't knew that coaching was how I have experienced it later. Like it sounded something for a 50-year-old CEO that you know needed this world's domination strategy. And so yeah, I there are a lot of moments that I wish I would have had someone to help me think better.
Yeah, how about you, Natasha?
I actually, like in hindsight, wish that I would have started to prep for post softball life earlier, and maybe seek out a coach. I mean, obviously it was something I didn't even know that it existed, but I mean, even still, you know, during my last playing years, I was negotiating contracts and having to do endorsement deals and all those things. And now, like, yes, on the end of me retiring, I did end up finding a coach, but I wish that like that transition maybe would have been a little bit smoother had I had a coach earlier in terms of like the things that I need to build my brand and, you know, like leveraging all of those things, like how important it is to, you know, stay relevant and like how, like, what are things that I could be doing on my end as I was still playing and transitioning. Cause it definitely was like the lights turned off. Okay, now what? Found a coach and we turned the lights back on, and, you know, like it could have been like keeping the lights on and still not, you know, having to reignite everything. So, I mean, I think in hindsight, I mean, I you know, obviously things have worked out and have been amazing. And I think I've earned tremendous value of having a coach post. But I think just even my advice to even younger athletes that I am talking to, it's like, start thinking about that next chapter, because you only have so long that you can play. And if you still want to stay in the game and be on the business side of things, like, why not, you know, start to seek out those earlier.
Well, and I think it's that whole idea. I mean, I was going to say this is probably a very common refrain for athletes, right? I mean, you hit a very high level in your sport. I mean, you're going to the Olympics, you're representing your country, and you come home, and if, you know, I mean, the reality, right, is like your playing years are only a band of time, and then there's no real like school that you go to that's like, hey, former Olympian, here's how you can turn that, you know, all of that athletic ability into a viable money-making business. And that's really important too, I think. Just, you know, I mean, we all, you know, we're all altruistic, but we all have to make money. Like, that's just that part of running a business and being in the world, you know. And so I think, like, in terms of leveling up, that's where having sort of a cadre of either your peers that you're working with and having really honest conversations about money and things like that, and what you're earning and how you're negotiating, and working one-on-one with someone to help you with that language and to help you with the communication plan can be very helpful. I mean, just while we're on the topic, Veronica, I know you deal with billionaires all the time, but I used to never talk about like what I earned, what I charged. Like, I was afraid to tell people what I charged. What is that about? I mean, I know what it's about. It's about like imposter syndrome and all other kinds of stuff that we're not here to talk about today. But I realized through our executive group that I needed to better be able to explain my value in the marketplace. And this was a process. I mean, you both have been in these meetings with me, like, that took place over a period of years. And now I'm very comfortable in talking about all of that. But I think especially as women, like, we're sort of programmed from an early age not to talk about this stuff. It's unseemly. I mean, you know, where I grew up in the South, like, a lady doesn't talk about what she earns. We keep, you know, like, that's just the way it is. And so I wonder if that speaks to either of you as you've sort of thought about how to make your own businesses more profitable, making asks, all of that kind of thing. Talk to me just a little bit about the importance of that.
I think to me, it's something that I still struggle with. I wish I would say, hey, I've just, you know, I've moved. But still, I mean, it has been a work in progress, but I think it goes back to self-worth and the conviction about the contribution that you're making to someone else's life. So when you're asking to someone else, what is my self-worth, then you're not reflecting. But they cannot tell you. They cannot tell you. You have to decide what is the value of that contribution. And of course, you're going to go attest it in the market. But going from what the others are going to tell you is never a good formula. And it's recognizing, you know, and the confidence about saying, I mean, I work with billionaires, and sometimes I know that my invoice is going to be like a good dinner in a good restaurant for them, right? And to me, it's a whole paycheck, right? So feeling comfortable enough, I think it's something we need. I mean, I actually, in our last peer-to-peer group at the executive group, was asking, you know, I need to invoice someone for the work that we're doing, and it's something that I still need someone to hold my hand and say, it's okay, like, you know your worth. And I need the top love from Anne-Marie that is telling me, like, are you going to do this at a cost, because it's costing my company, and I'm having to pay you know, payroll, and I cannot move forward without charging what is worth. So I think it's a constant. I think it's hard. I see it way more in women. And to me, that goes back to making sure that I'm clear on my own contribution, making sure that I'm clear, and then I am able to communicate it, and I need help to communicate it, and then I need accountability to actually go and get the payment that I deserve.
Yeah, thank you. How about you, Natasha?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough thing to share how much you make. And I think I learned really quickly, like even on just being on the Olympic team, and like, not like, you know, holding on to the opportunities or the endorsement deal that you got, but not realizing that not sharing that information with our teammates, like, was definitely like not elevating our sport, not elevating our teammates. And so how valuable it is to just, I mean, in that regard, if we are really trying to promote other women and promote others around us, how important it is to share how much you're making and what you're charging and what you're doing, because it kind of sets the tone, it sets the market, you know, and if, you know, like you could be skewing everything if you're not sharing that information, or selling yourself short by not sharing and not hearing what someone else is making. And so I think that, like, I've learned that lesson even just going through that process with other teammates, you know, during the Olympics and doing endorsement deals. But even now, I mean, it's just like, it's just putting it out there. It is what it is. And this is what I charge, you know, and this is my expertise. This is now I feel a bit more comfortable. Like, this is 30 years of expertise.
Right. That's what they're paying you for, not just like an hour of your time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's not just an hour. So I think it's just realizing that and just being comfortable with that, and that it's not a death sentence if people hear that.
Right. And that actually leads us into a question that we just got privately in the chat from one of our attendees who wants to know how coaching is helpful after you get hired, and this person is in a sort of a C-suite level role, and learn that all the male executives have more equity across the board. How can coaching help? And I have lots of thoughts, but I would love to hear from the two of you before I jump in.
I think it's the best moment. Well, no, hopefully you would have started before, but how can it help? I think the topic of our panel is that it's not about the transition only when you get in, but it's the leveling up. I mean, there's a constant opportunity to negotiate. There's a constant opportunity, like I know it's going to be very personal, and hence the coaching to take you through all those steps, but there are moments, there are transitions within the companies. I mean, right now we're seeing whole companies redefine where they're going and, you know, renegotiating salaries. So I think every year and every working moment gives us an opportunity to renegotiate. It may be harder if you're already in, but that's exactly where, you know, the sweet spot of coaching, of leveling up the conversation, and how can we bring you know, to the same level of the males.
Yeah, I think just in terms of the mindset and how to like actually approach those conversations, I think coaching would be so beneficial. Like just entering that room and knowing, you know, that males do have more equity. Like, how are you showing up, and how to change that mindset shift of, you know, like sharing your value, sharing your worth. I think coaching would definitely help with that. I think more than anything, I think that what coaching has helped me is how to approach different situations, how to approach those conversations, different ways to angle in. And I think if anything, it's always a great sounding board to have that coach to help lead you through those tough and difficult conversations, for sure.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, and I would pause on the mindset piece, because I have been in an in-house role where I was the only woman, and I found out that I was making like a lot less than my predecessor, and I was, you know, I was never in the room when things happened, right? Like, I was there, I was making a lot less, and I didn't have the same equity options as other males, and I was the only lawyer, you know, and so I was doing all of the work and getting none of the money. And I think it's important to talk about that, by the way. Like, I used to never talk about it, and now I'm like, no, screw that. Like, I need to be saying that, because that's bullshit, you know. And I don't care what anybody thinks about me talking about that, because it's all true. I think that, you know, my mindset degraded so much after I realized that was the case. And I was not long for that job, because I at the time I was not working with a coach. I think if I had been working with someone like Anne Marie, who could say, okay, here's where you are. Let's make a decision. Are you going to stay? Or are you going to go? Okay, you're going to stay. So what needs to change for you to be able to go into that job every day with your head held high and love what you do? And with the compensation piece, I mean, to Veronica's point, it is never too late to negotiate that. And the worst thing that they're going to say is no. And that is a data point as well, right? Then you know, like, okay, I can either put up with this or I can peace out. And I think a good coach is going to give you a good communication plan around all of that. I mean, Anne-Marie will literally just give you the language. It's insane. Like and these ladies are both nodding because we've all been on the receiving end of being like, okay, wait, can you rewind? Veronica was recording her, right? Like, I think that also if you have women on your team, this is a radically important thing for you to do. So they can see, you know, that this is what it looks like to advocate for yourself. But I would definitely encourage you to reach out to us and, you know, to talk more in depth about what you're experiencing, because I think the coaching, to more succinctly answer your question, I hope all of this was helpful, but it can give you the confidence, it can give you the framework, it can give you the exact language, and it can give you the path in. And, you know, I think in my experience, you know, I found Anne-Marie thinking that I was going to hire her for 6 weeks and that was going to be it, you know, and that was like some odd years ago. And I think that a good coach, if you've got a good relationship with them, that is going to be an ongoing relationship, you know, and because our lives sort of contract and expand, and sometimes we're in a pandemic and things are totally crazy and you have to pivot, and having somebody who's sort of third party neutral, not too close, not your spouse, not your BFF, not your mom, whatever, to be able to say, here's what I see, is that accurate? And here's where I'm going to push back on some of these beliefs that are maybe holding you back. Because that's another thing. I mean, I would love to get both of your thoughts on this. I mean, we just did a training this week on executive presence, and we were talking a lot about kind of the cognitive behavioral piece of leadership presence, right? And there are definitely deep-seated beliefs that we have about ourselves that lead us to behave in a certain way in certain situations. And I'm curious, you know, if either of you would want to comment on that generally, and have there been behaviors that you sort of had to disrupt and dismantle so you could level up, and how did you get there? I need to take a drink of water because I did a lot of talking.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I think one of the biggest thing is like just the playing small. In terms of definitely when you're in a leadership role, I feel like, yes, we talked about, oh my gosh, Natasha, you're an Olympian, this and that. And I've been in definitely situations where, you know, I don't want to take up too much space, too much room. And I found that wasn't helping the cause. I think people love to get behind you and support you, and don't see it as you being arrogant or cocky or, you know, being too much. I think it's just, there's a difference between confidence and, you know, being arrogant, cocky, or whatnot. So I think one of the things that I've definitely learned in terms of like the things that I was not really aware, was just diminishing accomplishments and not celebrating them, playing small, not wanting to take too much space up. And I just don't think it was helping the cause in any of the endeavors that I was trying to do in terms of growing my own personal brand and trying to be that role model for young ladies. I don't want them to be that way, you know? And so I think you want to make sure that you're modeling what you're wanting to put out into the world. And so I think that was a big thing for myself.
And how about you?
I think that this was a perfect example about our participant that just asked, right? I mean, we carry on beliefs like there's no room for negotiation now that I'm here, or it feels like I cannot negotiate, right? But that's exactly, to me, what the coaching has helped me to just bring light to the belief. And I have experienced it in terms of like the terms of the game. I assume a lot of things about the terms of the game. So in the company that I was working for doing sales, or I assume that we cannot sell to this segment of the market, right? We cannot do this kind. And I was new, I was with Anne-Marie, and we were just disrupting everything and just looking at, well, I just called this person and they want our service, right? So to revisit all those beliefs in terms of, you know, what are the terms of the game? Right now, I think it's great moment to revisit all those belief systems, personal and in terms of the environment, because everything is changing. Back to the corporate suite example, I mean, there are a lot of movements, especially in the C-suite, and there may be a lot of opportunities again. So which beliefs am I carrying that I cannot even see, that are making me act in a certain way, that are just not serving me? I cannot see that. Oh, is it breaking?
It's okay. It's always when you're saying something like really important too, and we're both like hanging on. Yeah, I mean, I would say, by the way, I have to apologize. My in-laws just came over and they're like in the next room with my husband speaking very loudly. So if you guys can hear their conversation, I hope you're enjoying listening to them talk about sausages or something, because that's what's happening. I know for me personally, the belief system that I had to disrupt to be able to level up to my, the next phase of my career was imposter syndrome. And we talked about this in one of our prior sessions, but I think it bears just noting, if you're out there and you're watching this and you feel like constantly someone's going to come and tap you on the shoulder and tell you that you don't belong in this room, like that is something that you can work on in a coaching relationship. I never even really realized that I had this issue, or I couldn't give a name to it until I was working in this executive group. And I think it also ties a lot into, for me, like being a people pleaser. Like I definitely want everybody to like me. And how does that actually undermine me leveling up to the next phase of my career? And this is just not stuff that you are ever going to, you're not going to wake up one day and be like magically cured of these beliefs that are holding you back. It's this process that you have to work on. It's like going to the gym. I make time to go to work out every day. Like, why am I not making time to work on my professional development in some small way every day, right? And that's where I see coaching and these small groups that we were part of as really like this vital investment in overall health, frankly. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and I would add, I mean, in the work that we do, I mean, we work with billionaires. They need coaching. We do wealth coaching, and it seems ridiculous in some cases, right? Like, what is your problem? You're going to inherit $150 million. You have an issue, right?
That sounds
and then, yes, there are a lot of issues, and there is a lot about, contribution. And if these stakeholders of our country that can make a huge impact do not find their self-worth, do not find someone helping them through this process, we'll just have another case, of domestic violence or, substance abuse, addictions. And Maria and I, when we work with these young heirs, we talk about the work she does with incarcerated people. And it's the same kind of job at the end that we do with our billionaires. Because the questions at the bottom is, purpose, passion, contribution, self-worth, and you can find it in both, in all, throughout the whole scope. And so that's why I think we all need, at the end of the day, help us find our voice, find our purpose. The work is the same, but the one we oh God,
right. You got it.
This is terrible. So I noticed it's in the top moment, right? That it goes on the table.
It's always the really good stuff. But you were saying that like the issues that these young billionaires that are going to inherit all of this money are facing in terms of finding their purpose and their passion and why am I here and kind of what's my next step are very much the same as like the issues that Anne Marie sees when she goes into a men's prison and works with incarcerated men, right? And I think that's really an interesting point to kind of just let sink in that, these are people in radically different situations and sets of circumstances, and yet those underlying issues are so similar. And I'll also say, I mean, I think that like if you're going to work with a coach, I mean, what really appealed to me about working with Anne Marie is that she has all of this business experience. I mean, she has helped negotiate hundreds of millions of dollars in salary increases over the last decade. She has worked with some of the most, total accomplishment achievement junkies, right? Like, but guess what? Getting all of the accolades and the certifications does not mean that you're paid what you should be paid, right? Like people don't just give you what you deserve if you keep your head down and work hard. And unfortunately, and she is really an expert at helping people navigate that. And I think, I would be curious to hear what you guys think about this question for those who are watching, who are looking for either a coach or some kind of, peer group. I mean, to me, I think you want somebody that's not just going to tell you what they think you want to hear. Like, you want somebody who's going to actually say, I'm hearing you say this and I don't buy it. I think it's bullshit. I think this is what you really are passionate about. And I think this is holding you back. What do you think about that? Right? Like that, those tough kinds of conversations are really, for me, what is necessary to be like, ouch, that really hurt. And also you were really right. Like I need to make a change. So what do you think about that? Like Natasha, I mean, you've probably been on the end of some tough coaching in your life, right? Of all kinds, athletic and otherwise. So what are your thoughts on kind of what makes a good coaching relationship?
Yeah, well, I had mentioned that before, like that tough love. I mean, someone who's willing to definitely tell you what you don't want to hear. And sometimes, when you sign up for coaching, you're always looking for, just give me the A, B, and the C, give me the strategy, give me this, but there's always the underlying thing. It's like exactly what we're talking about before. It's like, really learning about you and how you're showing up and how you're perceiving things. Talk about imposter syndrome, talking about showing up small. Like, I mean, it's just like all of these underlying things that are prohibiting you from that big thing. And you think you just want the strategy, like just give me the tools and I'll be able to accomplish it. But it's a little bit more, and it all stems from having someone who's able to get inside you, stir you up and give you some things and that you don't want to hear. And I think that it's just super valuable being able to have a coach who's not afraid to steer you in a different direction and get you to think a little bit more differently than you would have on your own.
Yeah. Veronica, what about you?
I think it's such a personal process because you're going to be transforming. You need to be willing to open the kimono and show the ugly things and let the others see the ugly things. And so not one coach works for everybody. And it's about chemistry and who can you build trust with. But to me, no matter who you choose, it has to be someone that helps you pose the right question and define the right problem, because we can spend hours, trying to get somewhere, but the problem was not initially well posed. And I was just, it was the urgent thing that seemed the most important. But the issue many times is not the issue. The real issue is something way deeper. And you can spend hours and hours in sessions, just going around. So someone that is going to help you pose a real problem, see it, and then work through it, holding your hand and make you accountable. That's to me, it's what I look for, and I would advise anybody looking for a coach.
Yeah, I have two final questions for you guys. But while I'm asking those, if you're here and you have questions that you want to ask these ladies, like please use the chat box because now is your chance. So my two final questions, and you guys can answer these sort of in consort together individually. Is, what are some takeaways that you want people to know about transitioning in a career, leveling up in a career, and how can people stay in touch with you? Those are my questions. Natasha, do you want to go first? Natasha, we can't hear you.
I was saying, I was trying to be like Veronica's, just dropping all these bombs and, I'm really teasing. I think when you're going through transitions, it's so powerful when you have, whether it be a group or you have a coach, someone who can like just guide you through. It's so simple. I mean, I being an Olympian, playing sports, like you can't do everything on your own. You're going to need some outside help, advice, guidance to help guide you through all of those things. And I think it's so valuable being able to have a sounding board, have someone kind of, like I said, go inside of you and just kind of get you thinking in different ways and challenging you, holding you accountable, all of those things. So I just think it's so beneficial, and it's like you're not doing it alone. You have that support. And when you have support, it just makes things a little bit easier. It eases things up. So I think that would be one of my biggest takeaways on coaching.
And how can people stay in touch with you, find you, support what you're doing? Do you have an ask? Give us all of it.
Oh, yeah. The best way to find me, I am big on Instagram, Twitter, Natasha Watley 29. That was my jersey number.
Yeah.
You can find me at natashawatley.com and my foundation, natashawatlefoundation.org. I would love to connect. If there's any way that I can support anybody, that would be the best way to find me and connect with me.
Thank you so much, Natasha. You're such a badass. I love it. Whenever we can get together with humans again, I want you to teach me how to catch a softball. So, Amanda, I see that you're here. You can come too. Veronica, what is your advice on transitioning and leveling up? And how can people be in touch with you? What kind of problems can you help them solve?
Key takeaways for me, looking back, it's going to get uncomfortable. We're all scared, and it's good. If it's not uncomfortable, change is not happening. It doesn't have to happen right away. I mean, we have seen in our peer-to-peer executive groups, I mean, you can be there sitting and then you're listening to some other stories and something, then you click and you're like, oh, so by listening to others' transitions and stories, you may not be right there in the process, but you will get inspired. You will figure out, and something is going to echo on you. So having that space, it's not easy. Then again, to me, transition and transformation are very close together, those worlds. And it has felt a little bit like changing skin. Like I feel like the snake that is changing, like it's so uncomfortable, it's itchy. And finally you grow. And that's what I would be looking for. Not the simple recipe, like the ABC, what I should be doing. It's where you're truly facing that fear, and when it's truly uncomfortable. And yeah, I think those two were those. And stay in touch. I would be more than happy to talk about my own experience and our peer groups. And so this platform is perpetuumconsulting.com. Veronica Yepez. I'll be more than happy to anyone that needs help on how to navigate these conversations. I'm here.
I love you both so much. This is so fun. I appreciate you taking time on your Friday or whatever day it is on this 97th month of the Corona to sit and chat. And for all of you who are here, who stayed this whole hour, thank you so much. You can learn more about story imprinting at www.storyimprinting.com. We do lots of training. We do public relations. We do communications, crisis communications, and individual coaching. Anne-Marie is taking a very limited number of individual coaching clients. So if that is something that speaks to you, please be in touch. My email address is holly@storyimprinting.com. And I hope you all have a lovely, gorgeous weekend. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Holly.
you for having us. Bye.